We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community, even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The View. The View is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Hello, all. My name is Aisha Hauser. Welcome to The VU. Shout out to Kiana Danae Perkins, Voices of Unitarian Universalism. I am coming to you from Seattle, Washington. That keeps cosplaying winter. I know it's February, but last night it was like in the 30s, and it was. And I know I'm talking to two people who are in cold right now, something other than the fall of, the final episode of the United States. So I want to introduce our new co-host. Welcome, Dante Hilliard, who is one of our amazing learning fellows at the CLF. And Dante and I got the absolute privilege of meeting each other way back in the before times, 2019, at the Blue Symposium in St. Paul, Minnesota. So Dante, welcome to the Boo, and I am so excited. You are one of my very favorite humans for many reasons. So please tell us where you are, how you are, and then we will send it over to DC. Welcome, welcome.
Sure. Thanks, Aisha. I'm very happy to be here. Again, Dante Hilliard. I am currently sitting in Baltimore, Maryland, the land of the Piscataway people. And, I found my way to Unitarian Universalism through The View. So it's kind of a full circle moment.
I don't know that I knew that. But let's go to DC and then we'll talk about that because I don't want to forget DC because this can be a rabbit hole for another hour. How are you, DC?
You kidding me? I got to follow that? Oh, come on. Hi, I'm DC Fortune. I am coming to you from central Pennsylvania, where it is rainy and crappy and occasionally snowy and approximately 30 degrees or some unholy number like that. Um, and yeah, life's chugging along. Follow democracy, world's on fire, blah 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 blah. But yeah, aside from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you like to play?
How'd you like to
I
play?
mean, we're getting through. We're getting through, right? That's all we can do.
I mean, hello, folks. Well, joining us. Yeah, that's true. But I do want to hear if you remember, Dante. You remember the episode that hooked you into Unitarian Universe? It's a learning for me. It's like, what do we need to amplify to
Yeah.
attract more?
What the heck did
So
we
I
do?
don't remember the particular episode, but apparently I tuned in during the middle of the big upheaval of like 2016-ish, 15, when the president stepped down, 17, when Blue was born, because I learned about Blue from watching The View.
Oh.
And that's how I found Blue.
Oh my gosh. That is so great to hear. Yeah. I don't remember what happened in 2017, but kidding. Of course.
It was like 16, 17. Yeah, the president resigned. And I was like, you know what? I believe that community organizing is a sign of the spirit. And I was like, oh, the spirit is moving over there. Let me go see what's happening. And I found Blue.
Thrilled to hear that. I want to follow the thread of the spirit talking through social justice, because Tuesday night, Ta-Nehisi Coates was in Seattle. I did not go in person, but I live streamed. You have an option of thank you technology of live streaming, and Ta-Nehisi Coates has the clarity of the goddess herself about justice and about particularly what's happening in Israel and the genocide. And one of the things he said, somebody tweeted it out, and that tweet's been going viral. If the Democrats didn't stand up against genocide, what makes you think they're gonna stand up against this? So when we were fighting against genocide and being our tax money in this country supporting something so vile and heinous, so overtly, is going to bite us in the ass. And there you go. So having that clarity is something we need to keep front and center. And I know, Dante, one of the things I knew right away about you is your clarity. We were on a panel together, and it was just, I'm like, who is this amazing human who I adore?
So according to Darby Lockridge, Tim Akins refers to that time period as UU troubles.
The UU troubles.
Is that trouble spelled with 2 U's, Darby?
Oh!
Yes, Darby. That is a shout out to Northern call that the troubles. It's the UU troubles. Amen and ashe. Amen and ashe.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So how has it been for you, Dante,
Right.
your journey in UUism? And I'd love to, if you want to share as much or as little with the world, because this is a podcast that everybody in the world listens to. I think we're number 3 on Apple Podcasts. I'm just making that up, but I'm manifesting that.
Right under Kendrick Lamar. So here's the truth. I first discovered UUism in the late 90s, early 2000s, because I've been a seeker for a really long time. I come from a Black fundamentalist Pentecostal tradition where, I could not be my full self and be in ministry. And so I just knew that, that was not, without actively lying about who I am as a queer man. So, I've been seeking, and I discovered unity because African traditional religions, some of the new Black religions that have been developed here in the context of the United States. I've done it all. I've been around the world and again, and I just kept finding the same ish everywhere, right? And I discovered UUism, but I was like, it's just too white over there, honey. I can't do that. I was like, I can't. I was like, sometimes I need not to see white people in order to be with them, right? Like I don't necessarily need, I didn't see integrated church as a sign of progress necessarily for me. That sometimes I needed a break from that. So I just kind of said, it's cute, and I just kind of put it in my pocket and pretty much forgot about it until I stumbled across The View somehow in 2016. And I know it's 2016 because I was in the middle of purchasing my first home. All of this was happening right around the same time. And, and I was just like, and I just kind of, so I found it, the one show, and I think there was someone from Blue on the panel. So I tuned in the next week, and then I was like, what is this Blue thing? Let me check them out. And then next thing you know, I went to a Blue service, and I've been here ever since.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
And now I'm a DMin student at Meadville Lombard.
Oh, God bless you. I think.
Go ahead. I want you to speak. I've been.
No. You were frozen.
Oh, I feel like a toddler. I have so much to say and not enough. It's all tumbling out of my mouth. After that symposium, now the Blue symposium was more than maybe 60% Black and then 40% white and non-Black POC. What was interesting about that, a week after that, I met with, I was presenting for UU ministers in the Pacific Northwest. And one of those white women had gone to the Blue Symposium, and she was the only one in the room out of maybe, 40 ministers. And I said, can you speak on your experience? Can you say something? I didn't expect what came out of her mouth. Again, white woman, who grew up UU. She said, I felt more UU in that space than I ever have anywhere else. And I have to think about what that means. Testify, right? And I what was powerful for me when I'm in Blue space, the convening was 2 years before that. And then the symposium is how predominantly queer the space is, which is amazing. And how that, because someone pointed that out at the symposium. And it the space leads with heart. I mean, yes, until theologically sound, and it was an embodied experience for me.
Absolutely.
What part of the shit show do we want to talk about today? The final season of America. What can we do? I do want to lift up Side of Love. Go ahead.
Well, since you mentioned Ta-Nehisi Coates, I'm reading this book right now by Alan Bozak, who is an African theologian who's also a Black liberation theologian, a student of Cone and Cannon. And it's pretty amazing. It's called The Children of the Waters of Meribah, Black Liberation Theology, the Miriamic Tradition, and the Challenges of 21st Century Empire. And one of his main critiques is, that they didn't listen to the women, and that's a problem. They didn't fully excavate the stories that centered women in the ways that Black liberation theology claimed to center biblical narrative, particularly Exodus narratives. And he said, and we failed to really articulate and study what it means to be against empire. And I just feel like this is really relevant for where we are right now.
Well, yes. When we've talked about centering those most impacted by systems of oppression, what I think people with privilege didn't quite grasp is how it would eventually impact them. And I think that's the women since 50 years we're very clear, like, oh no, it's never gonna, never gonna, never gonna. But then watching Black and brown women in detention centers and prisons be forcibly sterilized did nothing. I mean, not everybody. There were obviously organizers, but mostly Black and brown led organizers. But there were some white women, but not enough to take seriously that that happened to any person with a uterus. It's gonna bite you, right? Like, what have we made okay in the system?
Are you okay, DC?
No. No, I'm not okay. But like one of these days I'm going to get through a day where I don't have to like have a list of 5 more books that I need to get and read. If my to read book pile of books falls over, they'll never find my body. Like just I'm so frustrated with people, with white people, with dumbass white people, with overly privileged, oblivious white people. I'm just done.
What are the ways you are leaning into what feeds you, DC? Because I know, listen, there are days where I think like, okay, this is an avalanche. How can I move aside that avalanche so I don't get buried by it? And I've been actively, I mean, it's definitely taking work, right? So what are the ways you are able to do that?
Right now it's a struggle. I would like to do art because that feeds my soul, but my workshop is not where it needs to be for me to be able to do that. So I haven't done really any blacksmithing in 3 years.
Oh.
Right? And I like to bang on hot metal, and like it's very cathartic, and I make terrifying knives and swords and cool shit, right? Yeah. Well, you have a little one, but yeah. But yeah, I haven't been able to do that, and art is a vehicle through which we can release, ideally in a non-destructive way, some of our stress and anxiety. And I'm in search, like that.
You can say that on The View right now.
I can. Well, because the congregation where I am, it's a matter of money,
okay.
right? Like there's just not the critical mass. It's a matter of critical mass. They don't have enough. Like there's just not enough people with enough money to make it go, right? It's not sustainable. And it's not like we didn't try. God knows we tried everything we could. But so I've been in search, and everybody here knows that. It's not a secret. It's it's like we're being transparent as much as one can in the whole super squirrel secret stuff thing that the UUA does. But I should have an announcement in a couple of weeks. I found a place. They like me. I like them. It's just it's all done, but for the dotting of I's, crossing of T's, and signing things. Then I'll be able to say something. And I don't want to say more than that because I will start dropping hints that would be.
We will. Thank you for sharing that much. It feels like I feel like TMZ. We got a scoop. I hate that show. Why did I say that?
Well, but this is a really weird search cycle.
Yeah.
In Unitarian Universalism. And I think it would be like, we should have that whole transitions office on. Like they got nothing else to do this month, right? But there's 13 churches looking for settled ministers, and of that, I think and there were like 16 or 19 ministers willing to do pre-candidating visits.
Wow.
That's not much.
Wow, it's a small.
There were some congregations that found 3 pre-candidates that they wanted to invite, and there were some that didn't get any.
Wow.
And there are a bunch of places looking for contract ministers, and that's its own sort of tangled stuff because a lot of people, I mean, it is normal for there to be twice as many ministers looking for something as there are places looking for ministers. The wrench in the works comes in when ministers are geographically bound.
That's a big one.
Ministers are looking for, they need full-time or they only want part-time, and Murphy's Law says that the people who want the part-time are only surrounded by full-time places, and the people who want full-time are, it's like that. So it's really, and it's a whole new staff in there this year.
The UUA.
So they're trying
the
to
Unitarian
figure
Universal
out,
Association is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, no, the transitions office in the Unitarian Universalist Association.
Right.
All new staff.
Right.
All new staff. And so they're trying to figure out, where the paper clips are, for God's sakes, while they're running a search. So it's tough on them. It's tough on the people who are searching. But yeah, so it's one more piece of stress in, sort of a rolling frat party of disaster in the world.
That's the best description yet. Rolling frat party of disaster, because that's what it feels like. The oligarchs are just. Okay, I'm gonna share with you all my idea. May you indulge me for a second?
Please.
I heard Hakeem Jeffries, who I think get up and say, we're the minority, like basically shrug his fucking shoulders. Here's what I thought to myself. Did you know that Treasury is just living there? Just like, it's so I said, okay, here's my idea. Hear me out. The Democrats go to the National Zoo in DC, get some bonobos to have some gay sex in the middle of the Treasury. Just let them in. Get an elephant into the rotunda or 2. I don't know, some seals. I mean, at this point, we just need to match the takeover energy because, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I think it's a conspiracy because I am plugged into my Ethernet, folks. I don't know what's going on.
It's COINTELPRO. It's COINTELPRO. But I now this is not going to surprise Aisha, but DC, I want to return to you pounding hot metal.
You don't know that I make knives?
So we can have a whole offline conversation about some of this. But the reason I want to return to it, because this is a part of the work that I'm doing right now. And it's also, I've really come to a new understanding of my own spiritual practice. And I didn't have language for the things that I've been doing since I was like 5 until I discovered the work of Barbara Holmes, who identifies as a contemplative and a mystic. And I was like, oh, this is what I've been doing all this time. Oh, give me language for it. And I think in a time like this, we really have to lean into our contemplative practices, the things that help. I think Tricia Hersey kind of describes, she calls it dream space, but the things that allow our bodies to rest and our spirit to wander, right? And if pounding hot metal does that, and if you can't is there something else that gives you that, takes you to that space? See, and if they're like running, when I was doing
it's got to be 300 degrees steel and a big hammer. 3,000 degrees. 3,000 degrees of high carbon steel.
I think you got to find a way to pound some metal if you're going to make it through. Because
I do.
Aisha, we're not.
I think it's a good idea.
But I do think we have to do the things, you know. So my D-Men project is all about a new paradigm of theology that's centered around thriving. And I want to center, because I don't think liberation is the right frame, because it's historically situated. So when my ancestors were, after the Emancipation Proclamation, my ancestors were liberated, but to do what?
To do
Most of them stayed on those same plantations for generations, working for the same people who had enslaved them and owned them, and now they were just being underpaid. They were still being overworked. They were just being, they end up paying to work, right? Because they had to buy the seed, pay the rent, rent the land, right? So liberation is historically situated. There can come a day where we're liberated, but liberated to do what? And so what I'm arguing is that we need to make thriving our North Star, because thriving is something that we can actually do now, and we can pull into a new future where everyone is thriving, right? So that for me, thriving is, the way I describe it is, even if all my life is struggle, I'm going to figure out how to enjoy this life that I've been given. And because if my ancestors hadn't figured that out, I wouldn't be here. They endured some of the worst human cruelties ever. And if they didn't figure out how to still to thrive, to figure out how to love and laugh and have joy and pleasure in the middle of that I wouldn't be here.
Yes.
There's a reason that I'm here. It's because they weren't just surviving. We were never just surviving. And I think that's where we have to move, particularly in this season. So when Black people said, "Oh, baby, I'm going on retreat. I'm going to brunch. I'm going to bed," I'm like, okay. We lost Aisha for a sec. But
we lost her. What do you want to do? Quick.
I'm sure she'll be back in a second.
She'll be back. Hi, we didn't do nothing while you were gone.
Saw that.
Nope, not us.
But I do think that that's what we're going to have to do. And some people may see that as frivolous. I've seen people talking about, Black people, where you at? Wait, why you ain't out here marching? What, baby? Ain't nobody marched, organized, protested, pulled shenanigans, rioted. We've done all the tactics. We've done all the things. The thing we haven't done is laid our ass down.
So there's a meme going around by a toxic white man. So I'm not going to name him, but what I'm going to talk about is what he said, which is during the dying years of HIV/AIDS. And he said, in the morning, we would go to funerals, sometimes every day a week. And in the afternoon, we would organize. And in the evenings, we would dance. We would go to the club and we would dance. And we would remember why we do this.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's this like leftover Calvinist bullshit that has this sort of like, we must suffer and grind and have no joy if we are going to be enlightened. And geez, that gets old quick. And it exhausts us and wears us out. So let's find a way to grieve, organize, and dance.
And may it be so.
You know,
I believe in the collective unconscious, and hopefully my internet will cooperate for a half an hour. And Dante, I did a workshop on the roots of anti-Black racism, and I said to the group, after talking about the failure of Reconstruction, redlining, the long list of how this country is anti-Black. And I said, this isn't I use that word. I said, everyone deserves to thrive. not just survive. And at the end of this 90 minutes of painting the picture, highlight reel of the horrors of the institutionalized anti-Black racism in this country, someone asked me what I think reparations looks like. Mm-hmm. And I said, rising tides raise all boats. Universal basic income, universal health care, guaranteed housing to start. And a white man said, but then white people will get it. And thankfully, a white woman responded to him, that's her point. The reason we don't have those things is anti-Black racism. So let's everybody gets to thrive, and then yes, this country absolutely owes very big checks to descendants of enslaved Africans. But until we can have that conversation, everyone needs to have the ability to thrive, because oppressive systems like this, it is necessary to have an oppressed underclass. This is all by design. It's not about merit. It's not about working hard. It's not about not buying a fucking latte.
If it was about working hard, our current president
1231, that's Aisha.
Say that again, Dante.
I said if we were a meritocracy, our current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania wouldn't be a billionaire.
That frat party would not be going on if this was if we had anything approaching a meritocracy. I mean, right? It's 2016 wouldn't happen. I mean, exactly. So I think what's I've been ruminating and thinking about is expanding people's imagination, right? Like that is the failure of, like I was saying before I was cutting in and out, the Democrats just shrugging their shoulders. And I'm like, you can lock doors. You can like get a futon and don't leave certain offices. Like, your imagination for disruption is so limited because somebody said
they're polite.
Oh,
we lost her.
The Republicans are playing chess and the Democrats are playing checkers. Took the chessboard, put it in the street, shit on it, running over it with a truck, and the Democrats are still waiting to start the checker game, like in the building, wondering what's going on, like shrugging their shoulders. So we don't have an opposition party in this country. We also lack, not a collective way, but too many people lack imagination. I don't think, like you said, Dante, people who have been impacted by this oppressive system for generations do not lack imagination. It is the desire. We need to have the centering of the oppressed experience in order to know what thriving looks like.
And we have to preach, we have to claim that because, that imagination is that's not insignificant. Just like, like Aaron says in the chat, joy is an act of resistance. And one of the things that, gets me in trouble is I push back on that, Aaron, not because I don't believe that's true, but I think we've been socialized to frame our work oppositionally to evil. And what I'm saying is my joy is not resistance. My joy is my thriving is actually an offensive weapon. It is not reactive. My joy is not reactive. My joy is for me. My joy is what takes me to places where I can imagine new things that are not here and start working toward them.
Preach.
And so for me, I think we spent too much energy trying to dismantle and resist. And I think we have to imagine and conjure. That's where I'm at. You got me animated. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, you are taking us to all the churches today, Dante. Because I've been saying joy is an act of resistance, and now I'm like, because that is, yes, it is centering the framing of capitalism. It is centering the framing. And so changing the paradigm of the frame that is awesome.
Because think about it. So we've been talking about checkers versus chess. Okay, let's use game theory. How many games exist where you can only play defense and win. There are very few games.
Very
At
few,
best,
yeah.
usually you might tie.
Right.
But often we've been convinced that our best strategies were defensive strategies. Even, and God bless James Cone, but even Cone in his early work was like, Black theology is not speculative. Now, I'm trying to figure out what theology is not speculative, because none of us have died and come back. All theology is actually speculative.
100%.
It's all speculative. But if my theology has to have room for imagining, conjuring, science fiction, imagining a world where all Black people thrive. And as ridiculous or as impossible as that may seem, if we can't spend time imagining, how in the hell will it ever be a reality?
Yes.
Anyway, I'm gonna stop. I'm doing.
Don't. I love it.
It's like everything in my mind this week seems to be like a Rocky Horror Picture Show line. Like, don't dream it, be it. Right? Don't dream it, be it.
Yeah.
That's the real thing.
It is so over the top. It's become cartoonish. And I know people are getting hurt. I'm not at all minimizing that. I think one of the things that occurred to me, somebody said he's going to sell off the national parks, right? Now, I love the parks, but here's what, what occurred to me when I heard that, and hopefully I'm not breaking up. So let me know if I do, because then I'll stop talking. When
you stop.
When somebody was lamenting, oh my God, our parks.
You're here.
I thought of the Congo. I thought of the places where we have been stripping resources all over the world. Yep. And we're worried about again, we didn't care. We didn't care when it was over there, but we're worried about our national parks. Again, I'm not saying not to worry, but we didn't care when it was the most impacted over there, because we thought it could never happen to us.
Oh, did we care when the U.S. government carved white men's faces on the sacred altar of the indigenous people?
We did not care.
No.
Can you imagine if you went into your place of worship and somebody had went and carved their face into your sacred table, your sacred altar?
And all the parks belong to indigenous people. Thank you, LJ, for putting that in the chat.
Yep.
Our producer,
Absolutely.
LJ Williams. Exactly. Oh, did you hear that?
I used to be a park ranger, by the way.
No,
really? Where were you?
I thought I couldn't love you more. Where?
I was at the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial, which is in St. Louis. It's the arch. It is the ground of the arch, and the
little Willy Wonka podmobile things that go up in there.
Yeah, and the old St. Louis courthouse that also held slaves in the basement and altars in front, and I think where is it the Dred Scott case was adjudicated.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
When was that?
Ooh, back when I was young and tender. That was back in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Yeah, the National Park Service has been tweeting and on social media, trying to let people know.
I could have had a career there, but I decided to do the crazy thing and go to grad school, so I did that instead. But I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they seem like cool people, like librarians. I love every librarian I've ever met. I feel like I love every park ranger.
Where we got release time from the floor so we could research and create educational programming.
What?
Yeah, in every 8 hours,
awesome.
You got at least an hour to do research and develop, because part of our job was developing educational programming for the public. So I got to indulge my nerddom. Yeah, sometimes I had to count people here and answer questions where's the information table? You're standing at it. But we also got to do really important educational work. So shout out to the national parks.
Yes.
And I just love the cool metal story behind that arch.
Oh.
How it came together, the engineering and the metal. And
I don't know the story.
Oh, well, go ahead, DC.
it was one of those like politicians got involved and fucked up the engineering sort of thing. They built one side up and one side up and one side up and one side up, and they were ready to set the capstone thing, except they wanted to do it when there was press there, which would have been fine, but the day heated up and one of the arches expanded a little bit more than the other, so it wouldn't fit. So they had to run a bunch of garden hoses up there to run cold water down that side of it, so it would shrink back down so that the missing piece would fit in the middle, and then they could weld it into place.
We're so weird. We've never not been weird.
But instead of just doing it and getting it done in the dark before the metal went all wonky, right? No, we got to have it all wrapped up in flags and have politicians be there giving speeches and all that other shit. And then they're like, oh, we got to shrink that one. And that one grew to yeah.
And if you're really interested in indigenous people history of this land, we had a display there called the Peace Medal exhibit. And so whenever the U.S. negotiated a treaty with the indigenous people, they will be presented with this thing they call a peace medal. So it looks like a large coin, and it had engraving and things on it. And so there's a whole collection of them there at the Arch Museum.
This one's broken. This one's
and
broken.
Each one of those medals, like, they represent a treaty, but they also represent a broken treaty, because every last one of those treaties were broken.
Yep. Every treaty that the United States has made with indigenous people has been broken. Yeah. Period.
Yep. Period.
And people's like, all of these? I said, yeah.
Yes. All of them. Yes.
Yeah, we don't here's the thing that I was saying the last few days. This that's going on has managed to piss off everybody, but for different reasons. Like, even the folks who voted for this are pissed. We've been pissed. So I'm like, there's a lot of sand that's going to be thrown in the gears, because they're underestimating like how ornery we really are. We may not have a national opposition. We may not have, we being the citizens of the United States, may not have a coherent message. But even the winners are fucking angry as shit. And I'm like, what are you so mad about? Because you hate this too. Everybody hates. So we're on the same page with hating. Let's see. CIA.
The official CIA manual of trickery and deception.
Oh.
And the simple sabotage field manual.
I have that one. I downloaded that because that was on the website.
Yeah. Strategic Services Provisional. These things are just delightful. And the terrifying part is so many of them I see happening in our congregations.
What was the first one? What was the first book?
The first one, the CIA Manual of Trickery and Deception.
CIA.
Interesting.
Have you looked through it?
And yeah, well, one of the things that they do, and we see this in recently with certain sections of Unitarian Universalism, where people will get up and it says argue about punctuation and argue about language and ask too many questions and stall conversation and stall debate. Those are all long held disruptive policies to prevent progress.
So DC, so the official op strategy of the United States government is be a Karen?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was processing that.
Right. Be a Karen and a gadfly. Yeah. Yeah.
Be a Karen. Okay. Oh my God.
Right. But what that was is to infiltrate subversive groups and just gum up the works with dumb questions, with whatabouts. And I heard, and well, my cousin told me this. I mean, you know how that stuff will gum up a meeting, right? Like, that's the real deal, baby. And it works.
Wow.
It does.
It works. And one of the things you talked about, Dante, about lacking imagination. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, I think it was, about how white people in America, white progressives, lack the imagination to truly understand the capacity for evil. And they lack the understanding that there are people who don't care that they're breaking the law. Well, you can't do that. It's against the law. So what? They don't care. And they cannot be shamed. So they have no integrity. They have no moral compass, and they have no empathy. And to fight against that, we need to completely rework our strategies.
That's right.
You know, because so long our strategy has been, I mean, think about Richard Nixon, right? Expose it, and his people put pressure on him to get out, right?
That's not happening.
Not happening, right? Because, and we who are in the progressive part of the world lack the imagination. Like, it is beyond what we can conceive that people, that their brains are organized that way.
Yeah.
You know, remember, I don't know if Aisha, you were here. Michael Tino said something about that a few weeks ago, where it just breaks his brain.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, yes, that's because you have ethics and a personal moral code, and these folks don't. And you lack the ability to imagine that capacity
of evil.
And I would add to that, DC, that even where they have the ability, the capacity to imagine, what limits people is their unwillingness to understand their own spaces of oppression and privilege. Because the oppressed are savvy ethnographers of their oppressors. When we say trust Black people, there's a reason.
Ooh.
We are the best anthropologists in the world. Franz Boas ain't got shit on Black Americans. If you want to know something about white people, ask Black people. If you want to know something about men, ask men. If you want to know something about parents, ask children.
Yes.
Because you said the oppressed are,
as I said, savvy ethnographers.
Right, that's the word I wanted. Right, thank you.
Because when you're in the minoritized position, your livelihood is connected to those folks. So you gotta study. Everything about baby development tells you this. The child studies the environment. Okay, what sound can I make to get a diaper change? What sound can I? They have to figure you out, or they will die. So when we say trust Black people, that's not hubris. That's not a lack of hubris. That is us saying there's some shit we know because we had to know it.
Yeah.
If you've never had to know this, you won't know it.
And what creates dysfunction and trauma and maladaptive behavior is the inconsistency and the terror of the abuser. Like, we're run by abusers right now. We're joking that it's a frat party, but it's abusive men, and the Democrats are the abused partner. They're mad at us, the children, who fucking shit up and going, stop, you got to stop this. So,
don't
stay in this relationship for me. Let's go.
Right?
Let's fucking get out.
Right? Oh my God, that is so brilliant. This is an abusive family on a macro scale.
Yeah.
We've got an abusive dad, a non-protective mom who thinks that if she just does the right thing, it'll be okay. And the kids who are getting fucked up and who want to burn the whole thing down, and we are the ones getting pointed at as the problem.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. They're calling Child Protective Services to come get us.
Right.
To get us.
Yeah.
Because we're the problem.
But you know what? at this point, they're not even calling Child Protective Services. They're locking us in the basement, telling us to shut the fuck up and be happy, or we're throwing food at you.
Yeah, this is stuff I grew up
maybe
with.
some water every
Quit
couple of
crying,
days,
or I'll
and then
give you
some
something to
people
cry
aren't even
about.
getting that.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that?
To have the leader of the Democratic Party in the House, who are supposed to hold the purse strings, shrug is what? How come when they were in the minority, they fucking knew how to fuck shit up and stop the government and grind the gears? Come on. This is a cop-out. And so nobody, as Alice Walker said, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Yep. No one's coming to save us. We need to fix this shit. And I think more people want to than not. Even the people who vote. I'm not going to vilify Trump voters anymore because, I mean, I don't know that I ever did. But I think we have to recognize that we are all part of a deeply dysfunctional system. And there are lies that some people have bought into because they were benefiting from it. So like we were talking about, like in general, like the white people who've had the privilege are also part of like the wife, this abused spouse who think, no, it's going to be okay if we just give him what he wants. And they voted for their whiteness, let's be clear. But I also think I want to still recognize their humanities. I don't want to become what I hate. I affirm the humanity of even the, right? Dante, you're about to say something?
Can we kick them in the nuts just once before we embrace them? Because I'm still mad.
I'm not embracing anybody. I just want them to stop being assholes.
I mean,
Dante,
siblings do squabble. Like, that's the thing, right? Siblings do squabble.
All right.
But you're still in the same context. See, that's what you can't forget. You're still in the same dynamic, even when you squabble. But I think it's not about dehumanizing people whose political analysis or motivations are different than mine. For me, it is when I'm never trying to get white people to save me, because I don't need a savior. What I'm trying to help people in positions of privilege and power understand is you need to save yourself. Because even if I'm not here, you're still gonna get it. You need to save yourself. The 1% is playing, they're playing intergalactic checkers. It's
literally,
it doesn't even exist down here where most of us live.
That's right.
And so again, when you see all these TikToks with farmers and we're gonna lose our farm. I think that's I mean, black farmers been losing their land for a long time, but I'm sad that people are losing their livelihoods. But you knew you were on government subsidies.
That's right.
When you voted for the person who wants to ensue chaos. Mm-hmm. And like, so what is it that didn't allow you to perceive that? Or did you perceive it?
Yeah.
And did it anyway? Like,
or thought it was not going to impact you. I think people
that's what I'm saying. Or did you just think, because now, like affirmative action, y'all decided that DEI means people of color. But you ain't seen the data that white people are the primary beneficiaries of both affirmative action and DEI initiatives. Right. And guess who's the last beneficiary of either? Black people. We were the least buoyed by either of those efforts. So it wasn't, we weren't trying to get you to save us. We was trying to get you to save yourself.
Hell, James Baldwin wrote about this. MLK, even Frederick Douglass. Do you know the newest stats came out since the Supreme Court threw out affirmative action for colleges, except for Harvard, acceptances of Black people has been higher at all the other institutions. Yep. So, I think what people raised to know themselves as to be white has robbed. I know we have 5 minutes left. Has robbed the white community such that it is, and that's the problem. It's not. People who've been impacted by oppression automatically know that, those of us who've had the experience of being kicked out by our family for whatever reason, we create it, right? People who've had privilege and the story of this country, the mythology, that your whiteness will protect you and give you privilege, that's crumbling. That's what's crumbling much more widely. Those of us who knew it wasn't have been talking about this. And I want if I could wave a wand, it would be to say to the white folks who this is impacting in a way because you believe the mythology, to lean into your community, lean into wherever you are. I mean, I live in a block that is true. And I have a neighborhood group chat. I have, I say neighbors are. We now need to lean into community more than ever.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but again, which means you have to lay aside the mythology of rugged individualism, of Calvinist work ethic, all of that crap, because it's never been true.
That's right.
Calvin had his head up.
Worked for anything. Most billionaires, who's worked harder than the McDonald's worker?
I mean, or the migrant worker picking our fucking strawberries so we can pay $4.99 a pound.
The janitor in a medical facility. Who's harder?
The sex worker.
The sex worker. Hello.
The guys hustling on the street.
That's right. That's right.
Come on.
You want to talk about understanding a business plan? Talk to your average neighborhood dealer. They understand supply and demand. They understand quantity. They understand quality. They understand market share.
Right. And when we do, black water, y'all come, they blow it up. They kill us. Yeah. Now, if we're lazy and stupid and we're and subhuman, why do you have to destroy our stuff?
Yeah. Oof. Ooh. Or, oh my God. Okay, next week we have to talk about Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce winning Best Country Album.
I'm here for. Oh, I may not be able to be here next week because they call me for jury duty.
Oh no! Hopefully, I hope you're here because I'll try to get Beyonce or Kendrick Lamar. I don't know if they'll accept my email, but I'll try. I'll be like, "Hey, babe, come on a YouTube show." I bet you Kendrick might. I'm gonna see if I know anybody. If we have like 6 degrees of separation from Kendrick Lamar. Anyway, this has been so great. I hope you're with us next week. But if not, we'll see you. As
oh my God, this has been a lot of fun. How have we not met before? This is way too much fun.
Exactly.
This is what we're going to lean into. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, LJ Williams. We appreciate you all, and we will see you next week with Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce on the VU.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The View.